Hey, Roy.
Hi. Hey, I'm sharing us so people know we are live. Start a watch party. That
Start
always seems
watching. What are you
so
doing here in
exciting.
Hoppin?
Yeah.
We're,
How
we're
are,
hopping and hopping.
that's right. How are you, Rob?
I'm good. I'm enjoying the conference so far.
Good. I know you are doing a lot of heavy lifting behind the scenes, and you have client work that you are trying to get done too. So we are very appreciative
We
of everything you're doing for
I
us.
love my clients and I'm taking the best care of them that I can.
And I saw Cynthia earlier. She did a great job with Gina and Mary and Keith. It was a great conversation. And I know there's one ahead with Andy. And who does Andy have after this?
Andy has Adam Severson.
Adam Severson. That's right. That'll be a great conversation.
Cynthia did a great job. So Andy, if you're watching, you better behave. There's a replacement in the wings for you.
Yeah, Andy, note he didn't say that Roy watch and behave yourself. He said Andy, behave yourself. My position is secure.
You're right. You're right here. How misbehaved can you get on screen?
I know. Well,
I shouldn't ask that question.
I'm the social media bandit, and I share everything all over the place. I know what side my bread is buttered on.
It's job security.
So I know today we have Ashraf Lakhani and Matt Parfit, who are both going to speak about their respective sessions. And Rob, I know you were able to dance in and out a little bit today, but for those who caught the opening session, it was fantastic. I loved, there was this virtual setup like a conference space with stand-ins for audience members, except Adrian Lerson somehow had green screened himself in live. He's a cardboard cutout at every other conference, but he was live today. And we heard from our chairpersons, Kristen Bateman and John Matson, and they talked about reinventing the conference. And then Jill Hughes presented and Daniel Holland, and they all looked like they were standing behind dais. How do you say multiple of dais? Anyway, podiums. Yeah, they were behind podiums, and it was great fun. And then we heard a keynote from Baratunde Thurston, which was phenomenal. We even had a couple trolls in the chat. It was fun. Lots of engagement. A few technical glitches.
Always fun.
Good. Yeah.
All right. So we should bring our guests on.
Let's bring them on.
All right. Who's
I
our
think
first?
Ashraf is first, right?
Ashraf is first.
Yeah.
There we are.
There he is.
Hey guys.
Hey, that handsome man. Am I allowed to say that?
You're allowed to say that, Roy. I feel very special because I just saw you in backstage. I saw you actually tweeting. I feel like I'm on the end of. I always see the digital version of it. I've never physically seen you push buttons on a phone before. So
we could do a whole episode of just Royce pushing out social media stuff.
I imagine him doing that all the time. And
yeah, well, now you know what my husband goes through when he's watching Below Deck, and he wants me to offer commentary, and I'm like, sure. I really liked what the bosun just did. He's like, you're not watching.
I love that show. All right. I'm going to get out of here. So
we'll see you in a bit, Rob.
And go backstage and hang with Matt. So talk amongst yourself.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
So, Ashraf, how has life in quarantine been for you?
It's been fantastic. It's the best year ever, right?
It's a little hard on our social lives, isn't it? I know you and I were chatting about how it's one thing to do this, which is great. Yeah. But it almost reminds us sometimes of what we're missing too, which is the between times, the sitting down and having lunch with somebody, catching someone in the hallway, catching up on their personal lives. We don't get to do as much of that. We're all business all the time now with these Zoom calls.
No, that's right. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing people in 3 dimensions again. That's really what it is.
Me too. That'll be what, 2024?
I don't know. Either way, I tell everyone, just give me a date. I don't care if it's 10 years from now, but just let me work backwards from the date when life gets back to normal.
That's right. Even if you just make it up. I understand that. Just pretend.
No, it's true. It's good. I tell people all the time that we're blessed to be in the legal industry. We don't make anything physically, right? We just move electronic information from place to place and give us a box with some keys on it and a good internet connection. And, we're blessed to be in an industry that can make it work and make it work relatively easily, right?
It's true. And I think this year, I've said a few times, has really put to the test a lot of things we've told our attorneys over the years that maybe they didn't always hear. And now they know that we were right and that the thought leadership and the, digital marketing does work. And as much as they miss going to the country club and the Chamber of Commerce, probably don't need to do so much of that in the future. We'll see. See if that
No, it's true. It'll be fun to see how much of what we've learned actually sticks.
Yeah, if I never hear the words holiday card or holiday gifts again, I'll be happy. It's not a war on Christmas, anybody. It's just a war on stupid marketing techniques. This is how I get in trouble. So, Ashraf, you have, speaking of feedback from clients and hearing from the voice of the customer, you have a fantastic panel, and I'm going to look down at my notes for a minute on Wednesday, right, at 12:15 Eastern. And I love this title, Elevate, Collaborate, Innovate. Elevate, collaborate, innovate. I mean, I'm a fan of series and also verbs, but those are the three things that we need to do the most in our jobs. And then it's general counsel and outside counsel conversations. And so it appears that it's a mix of folks. I'm going to rattle off the names here. R. Stanton Dodge, Chief Legal Officer from DraftKings, Catherine Zinn, Chief Client Officer, Oric Harrington and Sutcliffe, Shanice Smith, Vice President and General Counsel, Hannibal Regional Healthcare, Todd Tukey, Managing Director of Litigation, Bass, Berry & Sims, Amy Austin, Founder, Outside CLO, and M. I never know what the M is for. Are you allowed to tell, or is that your password for your bank accounts?
No, it's my first name, Mohammed. But the best part is when I get having a first initial, it's kind of a secret. If you get all these sales emails all the time, right? Unsolicited.
Yeah.
And the way to get in someone is to use their name, hey Roy. But if you were M Roy, when it says hey M, you're part of an automated system. So those of you out there with first initials that you use, you'll know that that's kind of a little bit of a hack.
I'm going to have to remember that. I'm Roy Edwards, so maybe I'll go start going by R. Edward Sexton.
There you go. Yeah.
So M. Ashraf Lakhani is also part of that panel, and he is from Porter Hedges, in case you didn't know. So tell us a little bit about the composition of the panel, and how are you guys going to structure that conversation? It sounds like it's going to be a really good one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So for those of you that are familiar with the LMA conference, we usually have one of the most, well-attended sessions is the general counsel panel. And it's in a big, beautiful ballroom with a panel up front and a moderator. And we've kind of reinvented this a little bit, given the circumstance. And it's almost like a little TED Talk now, maybe two people giving a TED Talk and a little bit of an interview. But there's 3 20-minute sessions with 3 in-house marketers interviewing 3 general counsel. And 20 minutes at a time. And we've got a diverse group of general counsel who are going to be sharing their perspective on how they engage with clients, how they engage with their law firms, what really builds trust with them and their firms and their lawyers. And then, for me, selfishly, I have, so I'm interviewing Amy Osteen, who's a fellow Texan. She's in Dallas, I'm in Houston. And I'm really excited. Amy and I met last week and had a long conversation about her career path. And without going into too much detail here, knowing our members as I do, I think they're going to find her very interesting. She's kind of, in this crazy time where it feels like we've been pulled into the future. Yeah. She was kind of a predictor of this in some ways. And early this year, essentially became a virtual general counsel. And she's a fractional general counsel. She works with 2 different clients. Huh. One is in New York and the other is local in Dallas for her. And she's really, in some ways, a general counsel of the future. And so she'll give, a good discussion about her background. But I think it resonates with a lot of our members in that she made a thoughtful decision about what she wanted from her career and made it happen. Now, it so happened that she began this fractional CLO role, Chief Legal Officer role, on April 1st. Right. So a lot of things, sometimes, it's always better to be lucky than good. But but she was sort of a predictor of what was going to happen. And her perspective on all of that, sort of being thoughtful about it before she was forced to be, I think lends an interesting lens to all of this. Right. A lot of us are adjusting now because we've been forced to. Right. You don't have a choice. Yeah. But she did it proactively. It's what she wanted to do to kind of change the dynamic of her work environment. And, she'll explain it much better than I can. But I'm excited about that and, kind of connect her energy and passion for what she does with our members. And then the other couple of we have a lady from a healthcare company. And, I suspect there'll be the 5-letter word that we've all said a million times, starting with a C and ending with a D, will come up a little bit. But that's, from the perspective of someone who's in the middle of it. And then we have, the former general counsel of Dish Network, who's now at DraftKings, which those of us that enjoy a little bit of football and fun around football and other sports are very familiar with DraftKings. But it's three very different people with three very different perspectives on being general counsel. And, I'm excited. It's always, I always love, I've been to several of these now, and what I love is just seeing the steam coming off people's pens when they're taking notes.
Well, now it'll be their keyboards, and you're going to have to imagine it. But if you notice in the platform, there is a very active chat function on the right-hand side, and you get added people, and you're just like, it's nice to see that kind of energy. And I think there's what I noticed in today's session so far is that people are hungry for this content. They're hungry for the interaction, even if it's virtual, and they're hungry for the knowledge. And I, as you said, that is always kind of a crown jewel in every conference is that GC panel. And it does, all of us come away with a lot of ammunition. I'll say it quite plainly that we go back to our firms with and say, wow, these three very important companies or 4 or 5 or whatever, they have this to say about the 4,000 alerts we sent in March, and not that we, because I think that helps us frame and shape the resources we have at our disposal to do better work that reaches the proper target, not to be too Machiavellian or mercenary about it. But tell me a little bit about, just if you can, the prep. Were there any, again, without spoiling anything, were any ahas for you as an in-house person, even in prepping for this? You thought, well, I'm already learned a couple things. Just
No, I think that's great. So what I love about this session in particular is it's three very different perspectives. So as we all know at our firms, right, clients are all very different. So to go back and say this is what general counsel like, to me, is way too much of a generalization, right? We've got 3 people. Amy's legal department is herself, and she outsources everything, at the 2 companies that she works with. The other 2 have, sort of a medium and a larger size team. So their perspectives are valuable to all kinds of clients, right? So you can go back and say that somebody who's a solo at a small tech startup finds this valuable, right? And go through your client list at your firm. Someone, in the healthcare industry who's facing all these current challenges right now, right? Someone who used to be at a big, essentially media broadcasting company is now at somewhat of a, internet startup, if you want to call that, to DraftKings. I don't know exactly the situation, but to me, that when we were sort of prepping and talking about this, I think there are layers to the conversation as opposed to just, let me report back from the general counsel panel. And I also like that they're only 20 minutes long, honestly. They'll go by fast and there's a lot to cover, but at least for me, it makes you get to the point very quickly.
That's fantastic.
And, I know our guests will be available if they need to be, beyond that for our members. We're always hungry for more information. But the key is it's, 3 people in 20 minutes and, we'll pack it in.
I would say if there's a hallmark to what I know of you, you are a concise person. You're economical with words. But you're very gregarious, but, I tend to be a bit of a babbler. So I always admire someone that can go, this is what I needed to say. And I said it.
It's because I'm not that interesting, Roy. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's not true. So a couple of quick questions for you before we turn to Matt, but you can't leave because we're going to bring you back at the end.
Yeah.
So I thank you publicly. So when I was tapped on the shoulder, I put my name in to be on the international board. You were the one who called me, which was so nice. We know each other, but we don't know each other super well. So when I get a call from Ashraf, I'm like, what is this? What's going on? And you were so kind when you told me that I was going to be in the treasurer-elect role. And you said this thing to me that I think about regularly because it's been kind of a dumpster fire of a year. You're probably really glad you're not president right now, I might guess. But Jill's done a fantastic job, and I've learned so much from the team. But you said to me, and it so resonates, that you remember the first time you ever saw me was at annual conference. And I showed up early. And I sat on the front row and I had my pen ready, and I was ready to take notes and soak it all in. And that had an impression upon you. And I know that's harder to do in this virtual environment, but I think being present as we can with all the distractions in our lives and being engaged in content does mean something. It means something to your own growth. And people pay attention. They meet new people. That's part of the benefit of this conference, whatever form it's in. Can you speak to how the conference has, over the years, impacted you and or energized you about your work?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I've seen it from a lot of different perspectives. And yes, your face is emblazoned in my mind as someone who was in the front row and up awake when everyone else was sort of, let's just say, struggling to get up for the 8:30 start time on the third day of the conference. So, we do a little bit of LMA business early on and give people time to get their coffee and roll into the general counsel panel. That's the general cadence. But I always appreciated your smile and energy up front, and I know that translates across the association. What I've always loved is I tell people all the time that LMA it's an intimidating group because it feels like everyone knows each other, right? And what the second part of that is that if you just burst into that bubble just a little bit, you're part of the group in a second, right? And for me, it's always been my passion to I always remember how I felt the very first time I went to LMA conference. It felt like an outsider.
Yeah.
And, we've all been to conferences where you're sitting in the hotel room, you've gotten there early and you're like, all right, I could just sit up here and let the night pass, or I could go downstairs and, engage a little bit. And it's always that mindset that just come down. And I've always tried to be a mentor to first time attendees, because there's no question anyone who argues is silly. It's intimidating.
Yeah.
And remembering that experience and then what it feels like in an instant to have 27 friends when you came down the elevator and felt like you were alone. And that night, that first night goes by really quickly. So part of that, and it's hard to replicate that obviously here, but I'm optimistic that, there's enough. There's you saw the chat, like you said, the energy is exploding off the computer screen, right? And I feel like it's going to be hard to be productive over these next few days at our jobs because
probably
we're all really engaged and want to hear this. There's so much great content here too.
Yeah. Well, and you ribbed me about my social media use for good reason. And I found that as an introvert as I am, and nobody believes it, it really helps. And this lends itself to that. Follow up with people online after the conference and develop those relationships in the digital space. When we do get to be together again, it'll be that much more meaningful. And I am grateful to you and the mentoring you've offered me over the years and the kindness you've shown me. Now, one last question before we get to that. I know you're a big basketball fan and you love to play, and your boy is playing now, which is great. But how are you handling basketball withdrawals in pandemic?
We did chat about this a little bit. Fortunately for me, my body's broken, so I can't physically do it right now anyway. But no, I think sports has been a great healer for a lot of us, right? Having it come back. And, don't tell his mom, my son is 12, but we have put mom and our little sister to bed and snuck out of bed and watched some of these late night games together. And it's been fun bonding with my son and living vicariously through his athletics as he gets up and running as well. So
that's really
we're all learning all kinds of interesting ways to keep ourselves.
I know family is paramount to you, and you're a wonderful dad and a wonderful husband, and it's always nice to see that happy dynamic you guys have among each other. So don't run away. I'll be back on the end, but we'll have Matt come on next, and he can talk about his session. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Roy. Thanks for all you do for LMA too. You're a
Thank you.
gem for the association, and I'm proud to be a member of it with you.
Thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate it. Matt Parfit from Future.
I'm here. Hi, Roy. How are you? How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Yeah.
It looks like we're ready to play. We're ready to play chess.
So this is a game in progress, so we can't play on this board, unfortunately. No, I'll explain since you asked. I have 2 kids, son who's age 10, and I have family, as you can probably tell from my accent. I'm English. However, my brother like me had this. There's clues, right? My brother like me decided to abandon England over 10 years ago, and he went to Australia So he's living the life of like Mad Max up in the outback somewhere, but seriously, he's totally in the outback. He's like a policeman in the outback.
Really?
So he is Mad Max. Yeah, it's crazy. And I am sitting in New York, you know, hanging out with you, doing the thing. But yeah, so this is how my son and my brother play chess. So it's really nice. So they get a chance to, you know, get to know each other a bit, even though the time zones are tough, right?
Yeah.
And all that kind of thing. So yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
So you guys were a virtual family before we all had to learn this. You could write a book on sticking together when you're in multiple time zones around the world.
Well, you say that, Roy, but it's not true.
No,
it's the you know, locking the doors on everybody kind of makes those relationships feel more valuable, at least to me. And so, you know, it's kind of the excuse to actually reach out to my brother and his family more than we ever have. So it's really quite nice. I
love that. Well, it looks like your home looks like an art gallery. I mean, I don't know the art behind you if it's from your children or where, but it's really, you have a beautiful space there.
Yeah, those are mostly family pictures. They're a little bit old, a lot of them, from the last 10 years or so. In front of me here, in front of my desk, there's a pinboard with the more kind of recent artwork efforts by my kids.
You're like me. I surround myself with things that remind me of happy times and things. Obviously, I'm a bit of a clutter king. If you could see the rest of this room, you'd know what I'm talking about. My office at work, which I haven't seen in 7 months, is very similar. I like to have pictures around me at all times. So. Well, tell me a little bit about, you've got a demo. Well, you've got a lot of things going on. We'll talk about LMA's Got Talent. I know you've got a role in the Northeast Board coming up. We'll mention those things here in a second, but you've got a demo session, according to our handy dandy schedule, on Thursday. It looks like 2:15 to 2:30 Eastern, and it's titled Top 5 Email Marketing Considerations During COVID-19. Yes. If you want to explain a little bit what the session is, and for those people who don't know what Future is, you might want to explain a little. I assume it's part and parcel of the same thing, but you might want to talk about that a bit if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So to provide some context, Future is an email marketing platform. So many firms use us. So we are specialists in working with professional services firms, specifically law firms, actually. 90+% of our North America clients are law firms. And so we specialize in working with law firms with their email marketing. Some of the specifics that law firms look to us for are being able to deploy things quickly, because, as you know, firm employees wear lots of hats.
Yeah.
So you can't be a master of everything, right? So quick to deploy, on brand, all that kind of stuff. Deal with the data. So integrations with the CRM are key. Using the right data source, single source of truth, making sure that you're not going to get fined by the angry Canadians or Europeans or whoever it might be at the moment. And events is a really key thing as well. Law firms love their events. It's a good reason for it. There's a lot of history in big law firm events, and so those are some of the key things that we do at Future.
So then, about your session, without spoiling any of the surprises, what are, I assume there are some things you've also seen in pandemic, probably a lot of good case studies that you can unpack. You probably need more than 15 minutes or whatever you have, but what are some things that people can look for in your session?
Well, you're quite right. There's 15 minutes isn't gonna be able to solve all the world's problems when it comes to email marketing, but that's why I've just got 5 of them. The biggest theme of it, it's something that I've said before, and I can't take credit for saying it originally, is you shouldn't be doing things. Oh, that's not quite right. I'm going to say it all wrong now. I should have written this down.
No. It's a warm, informal. while you're collecting your thoughts, we'll say hi to Nancy Merlin, Mary Kimber, and Jessica Aries, who are kind enough to be watching and commenting. So now, take 2.
Take 2 is So if you're looking at how you're operating, so I'm going to start from the beginning. I went to a sales webinar that was actually hosted by Sam, who you probably know. And one of the things that she was talking about in that was if you're thinking about how do I approach an organization, I think it might have been specifically law firms, and thinking, well, how am I going to sell my services, my products, whatever it might be, when everyone's got bigger problems going on right now. This was way back in, maybe it was May or June or something. So, we all looked at the world a little differently then. And, she said something that really resonated with me, that was, you should still do the things that you should have been doing all along.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling bad about doing something, then you probably never should have been doing it. Right? True. So actually the overriding message that I have very much follows that theme of, these things are things you absolutely should be doing right now because of everything that's going on in the world, but you should have been doing them the whole time anyway.
Yeah.
So that's really it. Don't email people that don't want to hear from you.
If I may pick on you for a little bit and probably offend your British sensibilities by fawning over you, I think you are a very warm, authentic, accessible person. The conversation we had before we got into business, I think, is evidence of that. Yeah. And you have been a key proponent, though, of using digital technology to automate the ability to communicate with clients. But I think you yourself have often said that doesn't take the place of authentic conversation. That doesn't take the place of authentic communication. It is a tool whereby to be authentic. And I think we all know our law firm friends, for whatever reason, maybe they weren't invited to the lunch table in 8th grade. They want to jump over the authenticity and go, I sent someone a gift. I sent them 400 emails. But it doesn't take the place of human engagement. How does that factor in? Let's say you're sitting down with a law firm client and strategizing how they might use your product. How do you have that conversation as to say, this is not a silver bullet for everything, but this is a very effective tool to make sure you get your message in people's hands and you measure its impact? Absolutely.
Yeah, no. Thanks for the question. It's an excellent question. I always say that this is the easy part, the part that I do, and I am not jealous of the part that you do, that all our colleagues at the LMA do, of creating all of this content, because that for me is the really tough part. Yeah, I love the technology, I love gadgets. That's just, I'm just happy playing with technology. So for me, that's the easy part. But if you put it in the context of a law firm, what's the absolute end goal that they typically are looking for when they're looking at an email marketing solution? From my point of view, it should be about retaining existing clients, growing them, and looking for new clients, right? So how does email do that? Well, it doesn't do it on its own. It's just one part of the puzzle. And the part that we really are specializing in is the part that drives them towards the human conversation with the lawyer. It's not, I'm sure there's exceptions, but it's not a pure transactional business. You're not selling widgets on a website. You don't have a shopping cart where you can add an attorney bio and buy 10 hours. Although who knows? That's actually an amazing idea.
Not a bad idea. Put a pin in that. Yeah. We'll talk about that later. It's a good idea. I'll help you with
that. And so it's a very different proposition, right? Sure, they buy the firm, but they buy the lawyer. And every client of a law firm has their own process, some more formal than others. So we can't replace that. We're not trying to either. But the part that we do deal with really needs to channel that or enable that conversation. At the moment, one of the things that we're seeing, and I'll talk about this more on Thursday, is that there's been a huge amount of content that's been created by law firms, by everybody on the planet, let's face it. And they're sending it out to their lists, and the lists are growing, they're bigger, but getting added to. And so there's just a huge amount of content in our inboxes, some of us more than others, I'm sure. So how do you bust through that? That's really the key. And it completely comes down to being authentic and offering something of value, completely to your point.
That's great. Well, and I think, we're generating content right now, and I know that it is increasingly difficult. It's why I share and post so insanely, because it's like the more you get this information out there, the more eyeballs you're going to have on it, the more likely you're going to reach the right person. But I think the thing that you will help with, I know, is how to target those efforts. You're not, spinning your wheels, just kind of throwing things against the wall, but trying to get to the right the right people at the right time. So let me shift gears just for a second. I want to thank you. I know you're incoming president for Northeast region for LMA, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, and I'm very excited, very honored to be in that position next year. So yeah, very much.
Well, we're thrilled to have you, and thank you for your service. I know with all that everybody has going on in their daily lives, you'd think trapped in our homes we'd have all this extra time, and I seem to have less than I did before. So appreciate you taking on that responsibility. And now to the thing I have been shamelessly promoting for weeks on end. We've got LMA's Got Skills tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And your dulcet tones are one of our performers. And I don't want to spoil it, but it's because I've seen all the clips. It's a beautiful video.
Yeah.
And I don't know, again, you want to tell everything, but I don't know if you want to tell a little bit about what your talent is and who your sidekick is in your video.
So I'll explain my sidekick. We'll save the talent for tomorrow. I think that's probably worth keeping back for now. But so my sidekick is my daughter. So I mentioned my son. He's the 10-year-old chess player, amongst other things. My daughter, her name is Sahana, and she's 7, and she is my sidekick. And together we have a performance. Didn't even rehearse. Can you believe that?
It's really sweet.
Nailed it.
Wow.
And yeah. So between us, we have a little performance that we enjoyed making, and you can see her enjoyment. It's pretty transparent. Bless her. She's got a beautiful big grin. But in my introduction of my daughter, I'm gonna use it to plug something else that I'm using my sidekick for that you might not be aware of. Right.
All right.
So in my capacity as on the board for the Northeast, this afternoon let me look at my time here, make sure I promote this.
I know I'm losing track of all time with this thing in our lives.
Yeah, right. At 3:45. Now I'm guessing that's 3:45 Eastern for anyone that is not.
I think so. I hope so. You and I are in the same time zone. I can't figure out where everybody else is. People keep figuring out different times. I'm like, that's not what's on my schedule.
So at 3:45 Eastern, we've got Northeast. They're calling it a roundtable. And so I'm going to be hosting the Northeast Roundtable along with our fearless leader, President Dawn.
President Dawn. We should just call it President Dawn.
Yes,
Forever.
President Dawn, and my even more fearless 7-year-old daughter, Sahana. Dawn doesn't yet know that she's my sidekick on this. But what we're going to do, right? So what do you do if you get 45 minutes to fill with a social event that you only volunteer to help out with couple of days in advance? You would find it easy. You would just go through a medley of songs, and I would encourage you to do that.
That's true, whether they liked it or not.
My skill, which you can see on Thursday, probably isn't ideal for that period of time, right? So what we're going to do is me, my sidekick, and Dawn are going to be giving away 14 prizes and encouraging social engagement with our friends, maybe try and get people to do some shots. Who knows what's going to happen? But it's going to be
Don't have your daughter drink because social services will be there. We don't want that.
That's absolutely fine. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But we have all sorts of things. So I've been working on this. I'm making these myself.
Oh wow, this is exciting. We're getting some reveals here.
Here's my little list of sponsors. So I've been cutting these out and sticking them on these little cards.
Nice.
It's 14 of them. Ruby's there and many others. And then my daughter, her job, because of course this is what everyone has in their house. Her job.
Oh, I want one of those.
Spin the wheel. Okay, she is super excited about doing that.
My grandmother had a pillow on a couch she had on her back porch, and it had wedges like that. And I don't know if did you watch The Price is Right? You know the game of The Price is Right. Okay, and they would spin the big wheel. I would take that pillow and I would spin it, and then I would run around and put prices on things in her back porch. I'm sure she's like, my grandson is insane, and here I am today. This is what happens.
Yard sale whenever you're around, basically.
Your daughter will be co-hosting basement talk shows in 20 years.
Who knows?
For that.
I'm setting her up for something.
Yes, you are. And we got a woot from Kelly McKinnon in her trademark fashion. So I wanted you to know that came through.
Oh, look at that! That's beautiful.
There it is. Whoop whoop! There it is. So So for your groupies out there, there's a lot of Matt this week. There's today. There's later today if they're in the Northeast. There is tomorrow with your talent, and then there's Thursday.
Yep.
We should just rename it Matt Perfect Week.
It's a busy week, and I have booth duty in the virtual.
You have booth duty.
So come and swing by and say hi to me and Nick, who are going to be hanging out in the booth.
Stop by their booth, everybody. Well, God love you. You probably should be in your booth right now instead of talking to me. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't pull you away from some.
It was a great excuse. To be locked in a 10-foot by 10-foot area for a whole trade show? Come on. This is great.
Can't beat it. All right. Well, Rob, let's bring everybody. Andy says hi. Let's bring everybody back. They're still here. Hi, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm good. I was hoping we could have a preview of the talent show, but I don't see your daughter anywhere, Matt.
No,
you got to tune in tomorrow.
You have to tune in tomorrow. She's playing.
She's clearly your crush, so you're lost without her, which is how we feel. I have an 8-year-old daughter, so I feel the same way, right?
Yeah.
She's going to get an honorary LMA membership.
I hold you to that.
Well, this has been a real treat to talk to both of you. Thank you both so much. And Rob, thanks for having me on. Any last words of wisdom for our conference attendees in this virtual environment? Not to put you on the spot or anything. Come up with something.
Something virtual.
Something profound.
My words of wisdom would be to make sure that everybody engages with everyone as much as possible. We're discovering this platform, and it was amazing to see the level of conversation during the keynote. I haven't had a chance to catch anything else yet, but I will. But, I feel like the same rules apply virtually as they would in person. We just got to find that channel, and it seems like a great piece of technology. So I'm sure it's there. So, make sure you get in touch and talk to as many people as possible.
Beautiful. Ashraf, one more bon mot. Give us advice.
All of us who are familiar with each other, grab somebody who says they're a first-time attendee and ping them. That's my advice to everyone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of familiar faces here, but there's a lot of new names. So
yeah,
however you do that in the chat or whatever you do, just find a new person.
There's like a chat roulette where you get randomly people show up. It's kind of fun.
Just do it. And it's good to see everyone, and it's just fun to see all these names pop up. So.
Yeah, great to see.
Thank you both. Thank you both for your leadership and your contributions. We couldn't do this without folks like you guys. So thank you so much. Rob, I'll hand it back to you.
Speaking of names popping up in the chat, I see that Andy's shown up, I think, to remind us that we better wrap soon because he's on next. So we're going to take a break, and we will be back at 3 o'clock with Andy and Adam Severs.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.